Welcome back to my Ask a Knitter series, where I answer common questions that I get asked by knitters when I'm teaching knitting classes. In today's video, we're going to take a look at saddle shoulder construction, which is quite possibly one of my favorite construction types because you can kind of mix it and match it with other inset armhole types as well. So I'll kind of talk you through what saddle shoulders are, different variations and other ways you can modify them and make your own. So watch on to watch the rest of the video, and make sure that if you want to watch all of the rest of the videos in our Ask a Knitter series, that you subscribe and you can follow along with the whole series and you won't miss any. Let's take a look at saddle shoulder construction. This can either be from the top down or from the bottom up. Can be in pieces or it can be seamed. I'm just going to start talking about it from the top down, but it can obviously all be reversed. The main feature of a saddle is across the top of the shoulders, you're going to have something that is known as a saddle. So this would be across each shoulder like this. This would be the back of the neck. Then there's some kind of shaping. It might be circular, you might have V, could be something else. Then you come down here. From the saddle, you've got an option. It can be combined with all sorts of other shapes. So you could have a drop shoulder saddle where it just comes straight down and then the sleeves are worked out from there. Or you could have a raglan one where that first part is the same and then the increases are raglan increase out here. Or it might be combined with satin where there's just a smooth increase around here and then you've got a satin sleeve there. But saddle shoulder specifically refers to this section across here. Now this is one form of saddle where it's just across each side of the shoulder like this. But you can also have it where across the back you've got a wider saddle, so that you've got this section here on the front. That's the front here and here. And then this is across the back. So we'll look at each form of these and just give you an idea of different types of saddle construction that there are and how they vary and what body styles they're going to suit. There are a little bit of variations with some of them. Let me find one here. Here, this is waning crescent, and this one has just got the saddle across the top. You see it's actually very obvious in this because it's done in two colors. So you can see the purple was knit from side to side over to here, and then stitches are picked up in the back and front. So this has just got a saddle on each side. So that one is waning crescent. The other type of saddle that you might have that extends that out a bit further. So this one is tabbouleh, and tabbouleh has a saddle across the top and it extends across here. So it comes all the way down across here. So what you'll have when you've got the side here, the saddle extends all the way from up here to out here. So one of the reasons I quite like saddle shoulders for top down is it gives you a really interesting pattern that comes along on each side here. Then because you're doing it from the middle out, you get live stitches that you can set aside, and then you can actually come back and those stitches can continue on into the sleeve. So it gives you a really easy way of basically taking that stitch pattern up here and continuing it out into the sleeve. So it lends itself really, really well to that type of construction. And I am a huge fan of having a stitch pattern. It doesn't have to be overly complex, but by having it working in two different directions, in this case out from side to side and also from top to bottom, kind of adds a little bit of visual interest, but it's not any more difficult to work. It's just worked in a couple of different directions. So top down saddle is going to be the most straightforward way of doing it because you're just doing little strips. I'll either start, sometimes I've done it where there's a panel here and I can leave the live stitches there to continue down afterwards. This one, there's a provisional cast on the tabbouleh that's worked across to here. Then when you reach to the side here, you cast on stitches and then you complete down there. And all those decreases worked all the way along the side too, so that this part near the neck is higher and the part down there is lower. So you can actually build your shaping, all of your shaping for your shoulder within the saddle as well. So that one is pretty straightforward. And then those stitches are picked up and worked down. In this case, what we've actually got is we have a satin sleeve that's what's worked from the top down. So it comes straight to here and then there's increases worked. It's joined with the front and you're going back and forth in rows because it's a cardigan, but all in one piece. And then finally, you'll come back and you pick up stitches around here and you work the stitches across the top here, and you work back and forth doing short rows coming down. But that's going to be our next lesson. So make sure you're subscribed so that you actually will learn a bit more about set-in sleeves and all the different variations. But that is definitely that's the next lesson. So this one is knit from the bottom up. So you've got the body done first, and then you have the sleeves knit up to here. And then at that point, what's actually happening is it's a really interesting construction type. This originally came from, I think it was Barbara Walker's construction book that I was looking at it in, or it might have been Elizabeth Zimmerman. But what you're doing is you're initially very fast decreasing the body stitches. Then you go and you decrease the sleeve stitches. So what you're left with then is all of these stitches here and the stitches across here. So you take your saddle, a bit like the top of a heel, you work back and forth doing a decrease along each side, and that eats up all of these stitches across the edge here. And so you're creating the saddle seamlessly, but just with working decreases. So when you finished on one side, you come across here and you'll do the very same thing across on the other side. So this one is the Woodburn cardigan. Let me turn around, you can see the back. You can see the saddle more clearly there as well, it being decreased there. So it's a really interesting construction, and it does create a nice shaped sleeve. Obviously, you can also do it if you prefer seamed garments. You can do it whereby you can knit it up to here and you can sew the seam in with the saddle as well. It's frequently used for Aran knitwear and things like that, where you'll have a cable pattern along here, and then that's just knit, the sleeve is knit with like just this little saddle put in here, and then these parts are sewn in. So these ones are all done with more set-in sleeves, but you can have it where you can have the saddle, and this is often what you will see with Aran knitwear, where you'll have the saddle pattern will be here, and this is just going to be knitting straight up. So it's a modified drop shoulder really. So like the drop, it's the body and the shoulders the same width, only difference being is that you've got this saddle strip at the top that the body is going to be sewn into. So it's just creating just a visual interest, I suppose, usually when you've got some kind of a stitch pattern like an Aran stitch pattern across the top. But you can use, it doesn't preclude you from using any kind of sleeve, because this one is top down set in. You've got the drop shoulder. You can also have it where it's raglan, where you've just got, if you're going like this, you can have increases at a steady rate down to the underarm. So you can basically use any kind of sleeve type that you want with this. It's just going to, like all the saddle refers to is what's happening up at the top of the shoulders. Got another example to show you here. This is one kind of similar to this. It's again where you're using the stitch patterns across the back. So this is Clypea. It started with a provisional cast on here, and you worked out to the side here. Then the stitches were cast on for the second half of this cable, or a more complex cable, out here and across here. And then that's worked down. So it gives you a very clear idea of how you can continue that stitch pattern down. It's completely seamless because the stitches, basically these were just held. So when you come back to work the sleeve, all the stitches are there. You just have to make really sure that you continue on with the stitch pattern on the correct row. That's the only thing you need to watch out for. This one as well has got some decreases happening here. You see the way this is much wider here, the reverse stockinette stitch, and narrow across here, because there's decreases happening along there, so that the top part here is taller, so that you've got a nice slope coming down across to the edge of the shoulders. We often think of that in terms of short rows, because if you're doing a top down, you usually do that with short rows. But if you're going side to side, you can do it using decreases, going from the widest point here to the narrowest point down there. So saddle shoulders, when they're done seamlessly like this, they require you to think a little bit more about why you're doing different stitch patterns or how you fit it all together, because a lot of it's kind of turned on its side, basically, is the best way to think of it. The reason I do like saddle shoulder so much is it's very easy to modify each part of the pattern so that if you want to make changes, one doesn't have too big an impact on the other. So if you're doing this top down, you can make this the width that you want for your own shoulders. So if you measure it and your shoulders are narrower, you can make this narrower. And then when you reach the bust point, if you started with a smaller size for here, but that your bust you need bigger, all you need to do then is you just need to work more increases, starting them a little sooner so your armhole depth doesn't get too deep, and then increase to the width of the bust you want. So it means that you can have each of the different parts fitting your body exactly once you've done the measurements yourself and you've just taken a look at the schematic to see what the width of those particular sizes are for each different sizing, and mixing and matching a little as you're going through based on your own body measurements. I hope you enjoyed today's video in our Ask a Knitter series. If you want to make sure that you don't miss the next one coming up in the series, which is going to be all about set-in sleeves, then subscribe so that you can follow on and see everyone as they come out. And thank you so much for watching today.